Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Learning From, where I delve deeper into the GM material of different kinds of RPGs and look for best practices and good advice that we can take away from them for our own games. Today we will be looking at Vaesen, another hard copy that I actually own, which is one of my absolute favorite games. I was so excited as it came out, as it was announced, and I am loving to run it. I wrote quite a lot of, well, at least for me, quite a lot of community content for this game. So, a few pointers why it's a good game. In my eyes, the rules complexity is relatively low. I can summarize the most important bits on 3 pages, including tables, which is great. This is the amount of rules my brain can comprehend. The setting is very atmospheric and exciting, and it takes more than a sword to solve the mystery that you are facing, which is one of the prime reasons why I love running this game, even though it apparently has about 16 pages about injuries and conflicts, which you can, which can come up, but the rules are extremely easy and you don't have to worry about them. To give a rough idea what Vaesen is, I'd say it's an optimistic folklore horror game set in the 19th century, late 19th century, original in an alternative Scandinavia during that time, but it's now expanding across Europe with first the British Isles and Scotland and Ireland, and now Carpathia. And there is already community content out there for Japan. I'm very sure people have written stuff for North America. It is an awesome formula that you can use in many different parts of the world. Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this video. Vaesen, the core rulebook, dedicates several chapters to the GM. One of them is about the Vaesen themselves, one is about running the game, then there's an example mystery in there that I really like to run. I have read, it's probably the second most run scenario of my career. And so there's a lot in there, and we have, as always, to cherry pick some of the most exciting things in there. There's a ton more to find, especially the first and second talking points are just a snippet of what is in there. And if you like what you're seeing now, I highly recommend taking a deeper look into these chapters too, because you can learn a lot for other games here too. So to avoid me bubbling for hours, we will look at creating conflicts, structuring your own mystery, the power of countdowns, and some GM techniques to enhance the experience. So, once again, I'm talking about structure. In Vaesen, we are looking at guidelines on how to write your own adventure. And Vaesen provides a very helpful matrix for this. Of course, they entice you to deviate from the formula, to mix things up, to fit it more to your personal game style. But it is very helpful to have a foundation to fall back onto, especially if you improvise a lot like I do. I think I said this in the last video already. It's always good to have a solid foundation that you can return to and rely upon as you go with the crazy antiques that your players will come up with. And I'm very likely showing you this in a second. One of the central points of the mystery and its structure are the conflicts. And in Vaesen, you're working mainly with two conflicts. The primary conflict is the conflict that is between the magical folkloric creature and the humans within its vicinity. And you get a short list of things that could have happened. Someone wants something from the creature. Someone has taken something from the creature. Someone is exploiting the creature's powers. Someone is trying to save someone from the creature. Someone has wronged the creature. This is one of my favorites, personally. Someone wants to stop or banish the creature. Someone is trying to become one with the creature. I have to actually use this. And someone is using rumors about the creature for his or her own purposes, which I know is going to come up in a convention game, on a convention, and starting next month. So if you're watching this, you can still go over to the Illusion and HorrorCon Discord server and try to snatch a place in one of the Vaesen games there. Okay, so the primary conflict is what the player characters, I call them agents, come to investigate. And it can be something very, very simple, like trolls have stolen the newborn child of a family, and now after a year they want to have their own baby, what they used as a replacement, back in exchange for the other child. But of course the troll baby is bringing a lot of pain to the human family, and there's now a lot of trouble going on, and somebody needs to mediate. Because even though there was some stealing involved, it is not necessarily that the trolls want to destroy the human family. There can be found a peaceful solution. Or maybe it can't, because one of the trolls is actually a very malicious creature and needs to be stopped. But there are different ways to handle this conflict, and it will inform what the mystery is about at its core. It's the first thing that you think of if you want to write a Vaesen mystery. And then you got the second conflict. And this is something that's going on between the people in the place. Usually it's not about the Vaesen itself, but it is about the families and or workers or whatever, the community that is in the vicinity of the Vaesen. And there's another conflict brewing. And this one is also bubbling over the rim, almost about to explode as the player characters stumble into it. And they can become entangled in it. And this serves the purpose to give more life to the community, to make it interesting, to have something going on and not to deal with paper cutout human NPCs. This can be a rivalry between two families. This can be a conflict between somebody who is trying to do something new and conservatives in their community. This can be inheritances and stuff like this. And people behave differently towards the player characters according to what stance they take in the conflict. And the secondary conflict doesn't have to be solved to reach the basically good ending of the mystery, but it helps a lot with fleshing out this community. And if you have these two things, you are very well off preparing the rest of your mystery, because now you have two storylines that you can use to flavor the places and the people the characters will encounter. Okay, So much for conflicts. The second part is structure. And a mystery step by step. You start with a prologue to basically learn about the characters, especially if this is a new group. You can have a small scene for each of them to introduce them, to show them what they're usually up to, what is their life beyond their work with the supernatural, because they're probably not 365 days a year working on supernatural crimes. This would be very exhausting and taxing. Then there will come the invitation. Often it's a letter sent to the society or sent to the player characters, inviting them and introducing them to the mystery. Somebody is calling for help or is hiring them. Then you have a brief moment where the player characters prepare themselves in their headquarters, and they can do first research because they have archives, they have places to go where they can ask specialists, they can go to the newspapers. There's a lot going on. So they go in there maybe with the first working theory, maybe with some sort of preparation, something that will help them later on. And then comes the journey. I really liked the journey. But if you're short on time, cut everything, including the journey, as you start your adventure. The journey is awesome to set the mood and the tone for the mystery, or to have some contrast. Scandinavia is a wild country at this point, and industrialization is just spreading. So if you take your time and describe how the railway is making its way through the deep lush forests that which are still dark and unexplored in many places, you can give the players already an idea of what they might expect. And you can also use the journey to have a short scene for every character where something happens that will give them an advantage later. And then you arrive, the player characters get into contact with the mystery itself. They are introduced to characters and learn about the situation, because that might have changed from what was written in the letter. They learn where they can start their investigation, and from there on they're free to explore different places and meet characters and learn more. And they continue to do this. They continue collecting clues until it's time for the confrontation. They will try to banish, pacify, get rid of whatever the Vaesen in question, the supernatural creature, and solve the conflict. Maybe it's also they have to deal with the human who wronged the Vaesen to find a good solution. And then you will look into the aftermath. How successful have the characters been? And the book provides you with advice and help for each and every of these steps. And it helps you, and this is the next very important and interesting thing, with a countdown. The countdown is a short list of events between 3 and I sometimes use 5 steps of events that happen if the characters don't intervene or as the story progresses. And these countdowns are awesome because at the end there's a catastrophe. If the mystery isn't solved until the last step of the countdown, something terrible will happen and probably everybody dies. Maybe not the player characters, but the people who they were trying to save. So there is actually failure built into the mystery, and it can definitely happen. On the way there are several events, and this is something that I came across for the first time in Dungeon World. When in doubt, if you don't know what to do, if the players themselves have no idea how to continue, if the story comes to a drag, if the action is lacking, just introduce the next step of the countdown. And something new will happen. This will lead to a new lead, to a new clue, to some development, and bring back action and tension. I freaking love countdowns. I rarely get through to the last step, but they help a lot with pacing. And it's always great to have the countdown near to you in your field of view, so you can sprinkle in the next event as things might become slower than you want them to be. Yeah, countdowns are amazing. And then I promised you some GM techniques, and there are actually several ideas under different headers across the GM chapter. There is one headline called Game Master Techniques, and it gives us a few, although this isn't actually what I would advise you to read. They are very, very general and don't go much into depth or tell you anything new unless you're really a beginner. In the same area, there is a sidebar called a fairy tale feel. And this gives you ideas on how to start or how to give your mystery a more fairy tale feeling. And this has concrete advice. Several of them, 2, 4, 6, 7, magical number. And this coincides with, well, use magical numbers. This always helps. The rule of 3 is awesome, especially for clues. Have 3 clues in your mystery. This is a good number for things to go through until you have to resolve the story. Something I really like, it's the last advice in the fairy tale feel section, Once Upon a Time. You can let your sessions begin and end with a classic fairy tale phrase. Perhaps you read the beginning and the end of a book, opening or closing it to mark the beginning and the end of the story and the session. This is something I also use in other games, not to give them a fairy tale feeling, but depending on the kind of feeling that I try to invoke, I go with different genres. But constant phrasing helps, especially if you repeat it. Fairy tales are very formulaic. Once upon a time, everybody knows this phrase. You know what to expect after that. You will expect a fairy tale, and it helps a lot to get into the mood. And if you repeat it, this kind of becomes a soundtrack for your game in of itself. And it will remind the players about the experiences they had in the former sessions. This helps with getting into the game. It helps reminding them about the feeling of the game. It sets the tone very well. And it helps to make this game recognizable amongst others, because this is the game that's happening once upon a time. I freaking love this technique. And this is an actual technique. And then there is another one. Something I highly recommend is make it personal. Involve the player characters in the effects. Take every opportunity to make the story about the player characters' lives, either literally or symbolically. For example, you could let the creature attack a family member rather than some unknown NPC. Someone at the location might look a lot like a player character's sister. A theme from a dark secret might reoccur in the mystery. Think about what the players find unsettling. Sometimes human evil can be more terrifying than a Vaesen. I would underline the last sentence extremely, but yeah, make it personal. Let the player characters have connections to the people they meet in the mystery. Bring their personal conflicts into the foreground. Explore their past during encounters with the Vaesen. This is very strong advice, and I really like it. And the rest on the page is also great. Yeah. Is this already everything I wanted to talk about? There's a ton more. I might share this one too. Plenty of you are probably aware of this. Slowly turn up the heat. Horror stories usually turn into adventure stories the moment the player characters lay eyes on the creature. All that remains is to banish it. You should slowly turn up the heat. First, let the characters notice small signs that something is wrong, things that could be explained away, before gradually increasing the level of strangeness. Let unpleasant events, places, or people become increasingly threatening. Save the encounter with the creature until the very last moment. The purpose of the countdown is to escalate the situation. Should something dramatic have to happen early on, you can use the countdown of the secondary conflict. Yeah, this is awesome. Especially, it's not just, this section is good because it's not only saying, well, keep your pacing slow, don't put the confrontation in the beginning of the story, but it gives you actually ideas on how to do this. Instead of showing the creature, use the countdown, which is good. Yeah. Something that happened to me is that the characters actually located one of the Vaesen before it was their time to meet it. It was mid-session. And I really struggled on how to keep things interesting as they found it and actually started to fight it. Good thing is, Vaesen can't die, so they can't kill it outright. And they're getting probably very badly hurt, but how to get on from this situation can be quite difficult, especially now since they've seen it. So you have to put a lot of effort into foreshadowing something worse than just fighting it again. That will happen if they encounter the creature again. You have to put a lot of effort and work into keeping the story interesting if you show the creature first. And that's something that we learned from Alfred Hitchcock. The creature will be more terrifying, more dangerous in the imagination of the players if they don't see it, because then you aren't limiting the creature in any way. They can imagine it in the worst form they personally can imagine it. So show hints, give ideas what the terrible powers of this creature might be, and don't show your hand until the very end. What's great about Vaesen, the book, is almost all the things that I just talked about. They are supported with examples and further ideas, and sometimes you get random tables for them. And you are very well led through creating your own mystery. And I think that's something many games would profit from if they had something like this. And I think next time I'm gonna talk about basically the masterclass of teaching how to create your own adventure. And I hope I can stay within a reasonable time limit for that one. But until then, well, Vaesen is amazing. You can get it in many places. It's got very popular. And if you watch this within a week of its release, you still have a chance to get over to the Illusion Horror and Convention community event. You can just Google this, and I will put a link into the description, and find some of the Vaesen games that have been run that are being run there, whatever. And you can also maybe get into my modern Vaesen game, where I transferred the Mythic North from Victorian times into a modern setting. Although I didn't do this on my own, I did this with friends together, because everything is better with friends. So, see you around until next time.